and Sean's going to be talking about high density live streaming. Sean, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. It's been a
So,
while.
yeah. So talk about Xylinks, big picture. What changes has Xylinks seen over the last year? And where is the company going and what changes are you working on in the future?
Yeah, wow. It's been the last year has really changed the industry from our perspective. Xilinx being a core hardware slash software technology provider that provides the building blocks for many of the things that are people doing or that people are doing now. From our perspective, what we've seen is, as Adam described, I mean, the amount of traffic, the amount of video that has been is and continues to be generated is staggering. And so we see there are a number of areas. It could be nuts and bolts stuff like provisioning. Being able to get the best economics out of your hardware or infrastructure as possible. Xilinx has been working in areas like that. We've, as part of our new transcoding SDK for our U30 card, we have what's referred to, and we've open sourced this. It's the XRM, so Xilinx Resource Manager. It's things like that, ensuring that, hey, if we quote you n number of transcode channels, that you'll be able to get those that full maximum capacity out of your infrastructure. It's helping in areas like that. I would say with many of the newer applications, and I'm sure no surprise to you, latency is something with this need and demand for interactive experiences, personalization, all of these things. We continue to see this as being a critical area. Micro betting as states open up sports betting, and again, it's how do you create applications where the customer is engaged and you can hold their attention. And so latency becomes a critical aspect. And so we're working in areas like that. Certainly edge computing. So power, cost, area, these are critical things for many of these edge applications. And so when we look at what we're developing today with our U30 PCIe card, it's sub 30 watts, full on power. You're getting multiple 4K transcodes out of that. We believe that, pushing, where is the edge? Maybe there was an edge a year or two ago, but people continue wanting to push that edge farther or closer to the individual or the consumer. So I think that's certainly an area. Interesting. I was listening to Adam talk about, the long tail of video and how companies are trying to manage that. I think as we open up the number of choices, that long tail continues to grow, and the economics need to continue to make sense, because historically all of the business models have been based off of trying to get as many users to watch a single event. But now high school football, or I'm originally from Canada, maybe, somebody wants to watch a pee-wee hockey game. So how do you make those economics work? Well, it has to start from the infrastructure and at the silicon level, so that everything that builds on top of that. And so it's addressing CapEx and OpEx. So we're also working on, improving the compression efficiency so that you can reduce your bandwidth or your egress, much like Fastly's doing, but we're trying to do it at a lower level. So these are, some of the things that we've seen and that we're working on.
Yeah, and it really sounds like all of these trends, the trend toward the edge, the push for lower latency, they really play into Xilinx sweet spot of hardware acceleration, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
You look, sorry,
go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, Xilinx plays a role in many areas. I mean, we're doing stuff not particular in our group, but Xilinx as a whole has a big play in things like 5G. So there's certainly an element there as well.
You mentioned the U30
Yep.
and you mentioned an SDK update that's going to be coming. Can you share some details? When's that SDK and the various components going to be available, and what will it enable?
Yep, for sure. So the U30's been available for a while. We've as a part of that release, what we started to understand, and I kind of hit on it earlier, is there's a usability aspect. There's provisioning management, and so this new SDK that we're releasing, it'll be next week. It'll be the tail end of next week, whether it's Thursday or Friday. I'm not 100% sure, but it'll be the tail end of next week. And so with this, we'll have, as I mentioned, we've got our Xylinks resource management. We'll have a full GitHub IO page that provides the ability for customers to very quickly get up and running, being able to run, whether it be FFmpeg commands. We've got examples, the ability to quickly benchmark. In addition to that, we have another sort of lower layer for those applications where maybe FFmpeg provides too much overhead and you need lower latency and you want something a little bit thinner and integration. So we have what's referred to as the Xylinks media acceleration framework, which is at lower level that you can target. And then shortly after that, in early June, we will also be releasing our integration with Wowza. So that will be that'll also be coming.
Excellent, excellent.
Hang on.
How can customers? It happens to all of us. Yep. Someone at the door, a dog, a child, who knows,
there you
right?
go.
So can you talk about how customers can deploy the U30?
Yeah, so you've got multiple options here. So we're working with several partners, Boston and Sierra Hypertech. So they each have servers that are available with the U30. In addition to that, we have also been working with several other companies provisioning, servers with like Gigabyte. And in following that, we will be announcing in the summertime an integration with a large cloud provider. So we'll have multiple sort of areas or ways that you can get access to a U30, whether it's on-prem in your own server or whether you want to access it in a cloud.
Speaking of the cloud, can you talk about how you see the public cloud as part of your strategy?
Yeah, so from an overall standpoint, what we have seen, and I don't think it's surprising that through the pandemic, suddenly people had, whether it be they need to load balance, so they need, rather than trying to spin up their own infrastructure extremely quickly, they're able to load balance to cloud. We're seeing multi-cloud implementation. So from our perspective, Xylinx is working with all of the cloud providers. And so in addition to that, we also have seen instances where, depending on the application, there continues maybe to be, I think what we saw was maybe it's that traditional where everyone's going to go to the cloud, and then maybe that's a little too much. So maybe the pendulum is swung too far one way. And we are actually seeing the economics that when you're running video 24/7 and maybe the volume sort of hits a certain threshold, maybe the economics are justified that you keep some on-prem hardware. So we are seeing that hybrid model will continue for some time. So we are making ourselves also hybrid, capable.
Sure, sure. So how does the Xilinx U30 stack up against other solutions on the market? Talk a little bit more about the strengths of the U30 as you see them.
Yeah. So with the SDK, so there's the hardware component. Maybe I'll start there. So it's balanced in nature in that there are other solutions that, depending upon the codec or the compression standard, where you may get a different number of channels. Whereas with the U30, we quote you a number, and regardless of what you're transcoding to and from, you always get that density. In addition to that, most or almost all of the applications typically have some level, mid-level processing. So you're going in a transcode pipeline. Let's say you're streaming in an HLS or Dash implementation. We have the acceleration on the card so that you don't have to go back up to the host and then come back down to the card. What that means is you're enabling a lower cost or lower power CPU, or you have more CPU cycles for your higher level application. So that is an element that some other solutions do not. So they end up having to consume power and bandwidth, PCIe bandwidth. So that's another aspect. We also quote you a density or provide you with a density that at the best compression efficiency, you get that density, where there are other solutions where when you start to kind of pull the layer of the, remove the layer of the onion and you go, oh, well, at the best compression efficiency, suddenly my densities dropped by half the number of channels. And so this all, from our perspective, ties back to usability, economics, provisioning, so that when you want to be able to spin up n number, our customers need to spin up n number of channels, it's very deterministic. And then our software with the SDK, again, it goes back to usability, ensuring that you're getting the full best economics that the card can possibly offer, and ensuring that you get your time to market is as small as possible. Because some of these systems, when you get 8 cards in a server, and you have multiple servers in a rack and multiple racks in a data center, suddenly managing all of that can become quite a burden. So we've been working on things in those areas to assist our customers in the market.
And can we wrap up by talking maybe a little bit more about some things that are coming in the future? I know you're going to be announcing something later this year. Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Yes, so we continue to see the economics. If video is going to be as ubiquitous as audio, the economics need to be of similar magnitude. And so we will be announcing a new product family this year, which will essentially continue to drive much higher density, much better cost, area, and power per channel. Us being part of the Alliance for Open Media, we will be including AV1 high quality transcoding as a part of that product as well.
Excellent. That's great to hear.